Hi, my lovely writing friends. Are you getting ready to publish your first book, or maybe your 10th? And you've been thinking about whether or not to put your books on KU? Well, today we're going to have a bit of a chat about the pros and cons of using KU. So if you're interested, please stick around. Firstly, I should probably just briefly describe what KU is for those of you who aren't familiar with it. Basically, KU is a system that had been bought in by Amazon quite a few years ago now, which allows for readers to pay a subscription fee every month, and then they're allowed X number of books per month, Kindle books, that they can borrow technically from Amazon and read them. And a lot of readers like the KU system because it allows them to read a wide volume of books for one subscription fee. They prefer that to paying per book. Now, some readers, if they really like the book, will read it on KU and then purchase it from the author through Amazon, of course. That is allowed. And the author then does make the payment from the KU and the sales price. And there are also instances, a lot of instances, where readers will use KU to find new authors, which of course is really good for authors who haven't got any readers yet. If their cover and their blurb is enticing enough, it is possible that if a reader stumbles across their sales page, they may download it on KU as opposed to buying the book outright. There's less of a risk that way for the reader. And that is what the Amazon was thinking about when it came to KU. Now, just quickly, in case you're confused, KU is different to KDP. It is a subsection of KDP. KDP, the KDP platform, is I think it stands for Kindle Direct Publishing. I'm not 100% certain. But when you upload your book onto Amazon as an ebook to sell, it goes under KDP. You are not automatically enrolled in KU. There is a little button during the sign up, during the upload process that you click to say whether or not you want to put your book in KU. Now, as I say, the system has been around for a while. And full disclaimer, I prefer not to use KU. I have, on a couple of instances, put box sets on KU, but I do not, as a rule, put my books on KU when I upload them, and I'll explain why in a moment. But that is the difference between KDP, which is where all authors upload their ebooks to Amazon, and KU, which is the reader system, the subscription reader system that Amazon has instigated. Now, one of the first things where KU does not work for an author is that the per page read rate is not a fixed amount. It is based on some wild formula. Well, actually, it's probably not very wild, but authors actually have no control over it. What happens is regardless of the price of their book, makes no difference. That's got nothing to do with what they get paid in KU for their page reads. Amazon tracks the number of pages in a book that has been read, and it pays the author based on those page reads. But the amount it pays in page reads differs every month. But what it amounts to on average, like the last time I looked, did you see that bird? The last time I looked, it was something like 0.004, maybe 0.4 or 5 of a cent or something, like maybe half a cent a page. And one of the reasons I don't sign up for KU is because when I worked out, if a reader read all of my book, say it was 250 pages, and if they read it from cover to cover, so I got all of the page reads, I would still only be making about $1 in royalty. Whereas if I sold that book for $4.99, which is what I typically price my 250 page books at, I make $3.71 per title. I think it's about $3.70 per title as my 70% royalty share with Amazon. So to start off, you make more money in sales than you do in KU page reads. Because even if you have millions of page reads, you still would have made more money if you had made an equal number of sales. So there's that. There's that part of it. It is advantageous, I suppose, if your readers are only reading part of the book before they return it. At least you're getting something. Whereas if somebody buys a book and then returns it, then the author gets nothing. So there is that. Another issue that I have with KU being an author is that Amazon insists that if the books are in the KU system, there is an exclusivity clause. And that exclusivity clause is that the book can only be published on Amazon for 90 days, a minimum of 90 days, if that book is enrolled in KU. Now, again, for some people, that might not be a problem. But there are a lot of readers, particularly now, who don't like Amazon and don't want to buy from Amazon. And that means if your book is on KU, you cannot sell it wide to other people, like on other platforms. I publish my books. I have a book. Well, I'm bound to have a book coming up shortly. I'm not actually sure when this video is coming out, but I'm bound to have a book coming out shortly because I always do. But when it goes out, what happens is on the 20th of the month, my book will go live on Amazon for Amazon sales. And then on the 24th of the month, my books will go live on Draft2Digital, which means it will go to Kobo, to Apple, to Barnes & Noble, to Smashwords, to all of the other wide platforms on the 24th. And I can do that because my books are not in KU. So all it means that is for my non-American readers, they have to wait 4 extra days to get the book then. Or they can buy it from me directly on PayHip. You know, there's that as well. I'll do another separate video about selling direct. But anyway, so this is another reason why I don't like using the KU system, because I don't like having that exclusivity clause. If you are on KU, if your books are on KU, you cannot even have them on your own website to sell. They are only allowed to be sold through Amazon. Now, another issue where this can become problematic is, for example, the box sets I was talking to you about earlier. I made up a box set 2 or 3 years ago now, I think it was, might have even been longer, of some of my older series, and I took the first 3 full books of each series, and I made them into huge big box sets, like 1,000-page long box sets. And I put them up just before Christmas one year, and I put them on KU. But even though they were not an individual title, they were part of a box set, Amazon still insisted that each 3 titles in my box set had to come off of Wide. I was not allowed to sell them anywhere else. And I'm still trying to rectify that mistake, like years later. I still have the odd reader who will message me about one of my older books and say, oh, you know, I was looking on Kobo and I couldn't find this one. And I realized that that was one of the ones that was on a box set, and it's no longer in KU, but I had forgotten to reinstall it on the Wide program. I'm always grateful for those reminders. But this is why you have to be particularly careful. If you're using KU, you cannot sell it on your own site. You cannot sell it anywhere else. And I don't know whether it's still the case or not, but definitely check Amazon's terms and conditions. But it used to be that 90-day period would roll over automatically onto another 90 days. Now, I don't know if that is still the case because I haven't used it for such a long time, but I am suggesting that you need to check that. I think it's a little checkbox that you have to uncheck to make sure that it doesn't go into KU for a following 90 days, particularly if you want to sell wide. So there are positive things about using KU. And while, as I say, I don't use it, I do understand that for new authors, it can be a really good way to get your first start, to get your first readers, because, you know, economics plays a big part in the reading industry. And a lot of people can't afford to just, you know, fork out $4 or $5 or whatever it is for a book on an untried author. You know, money's tight. It's time for everybody. So if they already have a KU subscription and they want to, you know, give something new a try, then your book might come up for them. They may find you. They may have seen that you've been advertising it or promoting it on social media, or, you know, doing one of the TikTok things or what have you. And they might be thinking, oh my goodness, I'd like to give it a try. But they don't know you. They don't know your writing style. They don't know, you know, what you're like as an author. So if they can get it on KU, then they prefer it. And they might, as I say, quite often it can work out that apparently, again, I don't know for sure, you will have to check the Amazon terms and conditions yourself, but you can be paid for up to two rereads, I believe it is. If somebody knows differently, please let me know in the comments, or let all of us know in the comments. And then you can also get paid for the royalty on the sale if the buyer turns around and buys it because they want to keep it in their own collection. So there is potential there, but quite honestly, for those readers that are reading, you know, half a dozen books a week, and there is a lot of them out there. I used to be one of them myself. Yeah, they're not as likely to buy. They are just going to read it. Hopefully they'll leave you a review and it'll be really lovely, but they'll have already moved on to the next book. And, you know, they've got so many to choose from. So because my channel, this particular channel, is for authors, not for readers, then you might be asking yourself, well, it sounds like a really good idea. Isn't there a way to make it work? And there are two ways that I can think of that, you know, one of which I use, one of which I don't. The first way is that to make sure, if you're going to put your book up on KU, that you're going to do it for a limited time. So as I say, Amazon insists on a minimum of 90 days. So it is quite possible to put your book out, put it on KU for the first 90 days. You can still make sales while it's on KU, but it's just if you are on KU, you are more likely to be getting page reads as opposed to sales. But you can do that and do it for 90 days and then take it off and put your title wide then. Your book is still for sale in Amazon. You can then go and sell it wide anywhere else that you want to. And you would like to think that if the KU reads and you've gotten enough likes and ratings and reviews out of that time while it was on KU, that will hopefully keep the book high enough in the rankings of Amazon for it to turn up in natural searches on Amazon long after it comes out of KU. That is a possibility. Now, the other thing, and again, I'm going to preface this by saying I don't know a lot about it, but what a lot of my lovely readers have been telling me is that they no longer go on KU. They've stopped their Amazon subscription. They don't believe in whatever, whatever. So they went to Kobo. Now, I don't have any experience with Kobo, although my books are on Kobo. But what I do every time I put a book up on Kobo is I tick the Kobo Plus button, because apparently the Kobo system is their version of the Amazon's KU. It is a subscription service for readers, and authors, I imagine, get paid in page reads. I don't quite know how that works. I just tick it because it's a distribution outlet. But it is really handy. And where Kobo is doing one step better than Amazon is that Kobo does not insist that your books are exclusive if they go on their subscription system. So there is that. You can have your books wide. There is still a subscription service there for your readers that's not Amazon, and you're still getting paid as the author for those reads. Again, I don't know the workings of it. I may have to do some investigation into it and find out a bit more. Then maybe I can do a video about that later. But quite honestly, it's not really, it is something, so many of these things change over time. I try not to be very program specific or platform specific, I beg your pardon. But so on the plus side, because I could waffle on about this for ages and I really shouldn't, but on the plus side, for authors, KU is useful for gaining new readers. On the negative side, you have no idea how much you're going to be paid in page reads. You have no control over what the amount of page read amount will be. You have to have your book exclusive on Amazon for 90 days. And that figure that you get paid in page reads not only changes every month, but when it's worked out over the cost of the book, it is roughly a third you would make in royalties on a book that is read from cover to cover on KU, as opposed to if one of your readers actually bought it. So there you go. I, of course, can't tell you to go one way or the other. The way I do it, as I say, is my books go up on Amazon. 4 days later, they go up for sale on Amazon, where I set the price. So I know how much royalty I'm getting from every title sold. And then I put my books up on Wide 4 days later through Draft to Digital. And that goes to all the other outlets, major book outlets that there are. And they collect my funds for me and I get paid every month through them. Again, I set the price. I know how much royalties. When you put your book up on Draft to Digital, and it shows you all the channels that you can put your book onto, and you can withdraw from them from any time, but it lets you know whether you're being paid a read fee or a buy fee, a royalty fee or whatever else. And that is all laid out before you click the publish button. So that works really well as well. So do you have any questions about it? What do you do with your books? Are you already selling some of your books? So how do you work out your publishing system? What are your preferred platforms for selling? I will admit that Amazon, for me, well, it hasn't let me down yet. Touch heaps of wood. But I am very conscious of that readers are migrating because they write and tell me so. And this is why it's so important to have such a wonderful relationship with your readers too. But anyway, my friends, any questions, please pop them down below. If you thought this was useful, please hit the subscribe button or even tickle the like button as you go running off to something else. It would truly help me in the algorithm. And as I say, still working on it, still working on YouTube, recognizing this channel is back up and consistent again. But in the meantime, thank you to all those lovely people who do comment. That is truly appreciated. And until the next video, my friends, please keep writing. Bye.